Hey, it's Spoonie, and I'm about to show you guys how to build my favorite starter base that I build most wipes. What makes this base really special is the insane amount of storage that it has. So while it may look like a standard starter, it really is so much more. This base can also become really useful even once I move out, using it as a backup base or as a place to evacuate my loot. Like I said, this thing can hold an insane amount of loot. It has room for 3 furnaces, a workbench, 8 or 9 large boxes, and 15 small boxes. All of that in a base that is smaller than a 2x2. You can get up to 3 sleeping bags. This base is cheap to build, cheap to maintain, and is as secure as a small base can be. You can add a little honeycomb to it later. So total, let's take a look at the resources you're going to need. That's 2k wood, 1k for the twig, and 1k for the tool cupboard, then either 3k metal or 5k stone to upgrade your walls. So this is really easy. Just slap down 2 square foundations and add 3 triangle foundations on one side of it. Add in an airlock, which is just 2 doors in a triangle to make sure you don't get door camped and give up your whole base when you open the door. Always using an airlock is one of the first and most valuable lessons most people learn when playing Rust. Then just throw up some walls around the rest of it. Make sure you add a roof though. I'm leaving mine open for now so that I can show what it looks like, but don't wait. Put a roof down immediately after your walls. Now add 3 wall frames across the seams inside the base. And here's what it should look like so far. Okay, so the structure is ready. Before I put down a tool cupboard, I like to put down some shelves. This isn't 100% necessary, but it helps me make sure that I get the layout exactly how I want it. Remember that you can hold shift to snap items against a wall, which makes placing things down and making them look pretty a lot easier. I like to use half shelves because I just like them better, but full shelves will work here if you don't have the Jungle DLC. And this is a good time to mention that if you plan to buy anything after the base Rust game, before any skins or anything else, I would get this Jungle DLC pack that includes the shelves and barrels. This is hands down by far and away the most pay-to-win DLC there is. And I'll show you exactly why that is here in a minute. Yes, these barrels take up a little less space than the large boxes, and that's great, but what really matters here is the wall shelf, because you can place a small box on top of the shelf. This lets you place storage in places that before weren't an option, like above doors, above furnaces, above workbenches, above your tool cupboard, and just above other boxes. But I'll show you how to really cram in a ton of storage in just a sec. But first, let's get our tool cupboard down and a shelf in the second square after you enter the airlock. The first one we're going to use for our furnaces and a workbench. After all, we don't want to put our TC in that first square because it's just way less secure. So get your TC down just like this with a shelf. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to make sure that you don't cross this boundary right here. That's going to be important so that we can add in doors and the most efficient storage possible. Now, let's finish things up in our main area. This first square area is where we are going to put down a tool bench and a few furnaces, along with our sleeping bags for respawning. Place the tool bench in a corner like so. This is an important spot because this is what will allow us to get 3 furnaces and 2 sleeping bags in this one square. This will also allow us to put 5 small boxes in here without blocking any doors. Things should look close to this. That way there is plenty of room to put down 2 sleeping bags. You can place a 3rd bag in the second square if you are using this as a starting base for your trio. But this thing is definitely cheap enough to be used as a solo base, and that's typically how I use it. Okay, so now on to the main storage area. This is the part that makes this base really unique and what makes it one of my favorite starting designs. So we are going to start with 2 tall barrels and then 2 short barrels. If you don't have these, oftentimes people who do have this DLC will sell them in vending machines, or you can just loot them out of other bases that are degrading or whatever. But if you don't have barrels, there are probably more efficient ways to cram storage into this area. So once you have your 4 barrels down with 2 tall barrels in the back and 2 short barrels in the front, we are going to use some of those wall shelves I mentioned earlier to add surfaces for our small boxes. That will allow us to fit 8 small boxes back into this area. So place down your first 3 shelves as low as the barrels will allow you, with 1 on each wall. You may have to jump around a bit or crouch during this part. Once those are in place, put your first small boxes, starting with the back wall. To place this right side wall here against the airlock, it's best to rotate the box and kind of go at it from an angle. This will help ensure that it is flat against the wall. You can also use the shift key here to try and get it to snap to the surface of the shelf, but that can be a little tricky. And finally, on this leftmost shelf, we can actually fit 2 boxes. Now we are going to move on to the upper layer, so place 3 more shelves above the first row of small boxes. You'll next want to place down a barrel or box or just something temporary to stand on while you place these next boxes. This is because you need to see the top of the shelf in order to get the small box to fit on it, so it can take some patience and maneuvering. What is really helpful, especially if you're only using one shelf per wall, is holding shift after you place the first box. This will, for some reason, really help with snapping that second box into place. Like I've said, it gets a little finicky once you've placed more than one shelf on a single wall, but it can still work if you're patient. And now, as you can see, we have managed to fit 8 small boxes and 4 large boxes in a 2 triangle area. But wait, that's not all. You can also add 2 boxes above the tool cupboard and still fit 2 barrels on this top shelf. Then we can place 5 more small boxes in the first room above the furnace and the door, plus 1 underneath the workbench. Again, you'll probably have to stand on a barrel or box in order to make this work, and don't worry, the bottom part of the shelf doesn't block the door at all. You can walk right through. So now this base has more storage than many mid-sized bases do, and you can even add another large box in this open area if you need it. So now let's add in our doors. You can upgrade these to garage doors later once you find some gears, but at first you'll probably be working with just double metal doors. You want to make sure that these doors open outward away from you so that they don't block your path. And when you upgrade these to garage doors, the roller at the top of the door should be facing you. This way, the boxes and shelves don't stick through the wall. If they are sticking through the wall, they can be damaged and destroyed. And finally, to beef this base up, we're going to add some really quick honeycomb, and suddenly this base is reasonably secure, especially early on in a wipe. Getting through either side of these walls or all of the doors will cost you at least 15 rockets, and that can be beefed up even more with some armored doors or walls once you're not so broke. Easily one of my favorite starters out there, and one that I end up usually living in until I'm completely ready to build and afford something larger.